Welcome to another episode of the School of Unlearning. So let's introduce ourselves. The idea of this unlearning is basically coming from the thought that during the journey of our life, we have developed certain belief systems, certain assumptions about what we are doing. And during the course of journey of what we do as a business person or as an entrepreneur or as an artist or whatever field we are in, we learn a lot and we unlearn all our assumptions. They don't come true, our beliefs changes. The idea is to record this so that we can give some learnings to some people who are watching us. Karish, let's start with you. Let's introduce ourselves a little deeply about you and your belief systems and
belief system.
What makes you what you are. Like there was a song called "मैं ऐसा क्यों हूँ."
मैं ऐसा क्यों हूँ? So essentially, if you want to call it professional journey, then it's been largely building businesses across the spectrum, largely in the media space, but many other small and large businesses, and have failed many times actually. So some businesses people know have worked, but many have failed, and that's what one doesn't talk about much actually. And today we have a chance to talk about that. And where I'm a true believer in India. I think that's the big thing, and I think extremely happy that our generation, my generation specifically, our lives completely transformed. I think where we began, and we are, I don't know how many people are really thankful for it, but our lives have transformed, and I am a result of that transformation actually that took place in the early 90s in India, that from where one thought one would be and where one has arrived. I'm really grateful for what has happened. And
so what changed?
I think the whole opportunity space changed completely after liberalization. I think what we were before, when I was in the 80s in college, right, late 80s, and what the world looked like, and in India looked like.
What was your imagination?
All of my classmates wanted to go abroad. It was like, there was a whole thing that, there is nothing to be done here. You go, you finish college here, you go to America, and that's where a life and a career and money and lifestyle is built, essentially. But I think once we got hit, and remember we got hit badly as a country in the early 90s. I don't know, none of you guys have probably experienced it.
I think they are all born 90s.
Yeah, exactly. None of you guys have experienced. So in a sense, and I'm sure Kishore and me have seen waves of this. कि हर बार हर थोड़े साल के बाद हर 8-10 साल में इंडिया में कुछ होता है एक्चुअली. That's the way to think about it. And then I think the way privatization happened, and suddenly any sector you take, उधर 2-3 government companies होती थी या license companies होती थी, and suddenly 20 companies mushroom. So I think the demand for talent, the salary structures, the amount of money you could make, and the difference you could make, and the opportunity you got. Earlier even how the companies ran, and how people treated you, and how you were stuck in a hierarchical structure because of the sudden demand. You suddenly, we blossomed actually. And when I see my friends who've gone abroad, I mean, they've had very different lives from mine, but I've had you can pack in, let's say, 50 years experience in 20, I think. That's the opportunity that's been given to us. So India has been fantastic in a way, and I'm saying that seeing that change over and watching that change has made me what I am today actually. So I'm a product of the luck we've had to be here during that time actually.
Nice. Yeah.
Manish?
Look, professionally, I started Purple about 12 years ago. Purple is an online destination for beauty products in India. I'm a firm believer in the fact that nothing is impossible. I think another belief that I've always had, and obviously it's got nurtured over a period of time, is take a contrarian approach to things. Don't do what everybody else is doing, because then you can only be as good as probably your execution. But if you do something that's quite contrarian to how the world is thinking, then you can probably find pot of gold at the end. And if you find one pot of gold, then you continuously go after finding more pots of gold. Contrary to Haresh, your journey, I came into workforce in 2007. Like the biggest bull market India had was probably 2003 to 2007. I joined the epitome of bull market. I joined Lehman Brothers in 2007. Um, and then 2008 happened, and obviously I turned entrepreneur in 2011.
So it
So
was a blessing.
yeah, look, everything in life has been a blessing. I think when something wrong happens to you at that point in time, you feel a little bit like worried and bothered. But I think in hindsight, it's been an
One good
outstanding.
night's sleep can solve many problems. All you have to do is sleep.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think integrity and governance and whatever corporate governance has always been key on my mind. I think we like to serve to investors what we would like to get served when we would be investors. So it's the philosophy we use. Yeah, look, so very, very ambitious on India, very bullish on India. My sense is a lot of companies, almost $100 billion companies, each would get created in the next 10 years. And hopefully we can be party to that journey. It'll be awesome.
Good. We have a Ashutosh as a serial entrepreneur. Yeah.
Thank you, sir. I think once again, I think to both of your points that when I looked at India, we look at a little bit of a micro point of view, right, from the macro, because most of the things actually start at the very bottom, right? So for us and me, personally, how I look at India is land of opportunities, but also a land of brand creation and a lot of exposure to a lot of things which have not been done. I feel that India is where US was probably 12 to 15 years ago. And there is a mass opportunity of creating brands. And when I say brands, I actually mean brands which can demand premium and not labels who are just branded and you just sell at a point of probably discounts, right? So I think what I always wanted to do was build brands which has legacy and value sort of attached to it, and a sense of pride for the consumers. And I feel given India is one of the largest consumer markets, I think there is a scope of innovation. And I personally want to bring a lot of innovations and a lot of things that people are very afraid of. So you will see larger kind of companies not do a lot of things because they feel that there is not enough data to back it up. So I think it takes people like me to probably take that initiative and not very afraid to fail. And I think that's the kind of philosophy that I actually go with. That it's okay to fail, but keep on trying and do things where people are more scared to do, and go into the uncharted waters and learn from that. And I think that's the best way to do it, right? Rather than given a book and say, okay, this is how you're going to make something. I think it's always good to try your own sort of recipes and make the best dish out of whatever you offered.
Yeah. Karishma, the humans of Mumbai or Bombay.
That has been quite an issue in all our lives. So I started Humans of Bombay when I was 21. I was actually straight out of college, and I've said this before that all of my friends were either getting a master's or they had like 6-figure jobs. My best friend had landed a job in JP Morgan Chase at that point. But I just didn't know what I wanted to do in life. So I think that I just wanted to explore, and that has been the theme and the narrative for 10 years, that you just explore and keep finding what you eventually feel really passionately about. When I started Humans of Bombay, it was simple. There was not enough quality content coming out of India. And when I saw Humans of New York and I saw these amazing write-ups with beautiful photographs capturing the narratives of so many people in a city like New York, I wondered, how is it not happening in Bombay? Because Bombay is such a world within worlds. So that's what we set out to do. I started with one camera. I didn't know how to shoot. I figured it out on the job. I used to always write, so that was a plus. But everything to do with running a business, running essentially now a media house, which is we're into different forms of content. We're getting into our first live event, has pretty much been learnt on the job. And I think that when you move from phase to phase of your professional journey, you kind of stumble upon the next thing and the next thing. It's just how you grab that opportunity and how you make the most of it. I feel like I've been given plenty of opportunities to create that space. And it's going to be 10 years of creating non-stop content, and I still love it. So yeah, it's going well.
Interesting. So Manish, what has been your childhood? What shaped you during childhood? So what made you come into entrepreneurship from a professional line? So
Yeah, look, I would say I grew up in a lower middle class household in a city called Faridabad. It's next to Delhi. My grandparents migrated from Pakistan in 1947. They pretty much lost whatever they had in Pakistan, and they settled in these refugee colonies in Faridabad and parts of Delhi. There was Malviya Nagar, which is also a little bit of that refugee
So
area.
that story somehow shaped you somewhere?
Yeah, look, so when I used to talk to my dada and dadi ji, then when I would talk to my neighbor also, my neighbor, they were also pretty old. And this auntie who used to live next to my house, she was 4 or 5 years old when she migrated to India. She used to tell me stories of how her brother, who used to run a trucking business in Pakistan, now called Pakistan, lost everything, but he transported a lot of people from Pakistan to India in his own trucks. And so, look, my parents' upbringing was there was less money at house, so you couldn't afford to pay fees to the school, even though the fees was probably 25 paise. So when I was growing up, my parents were very keen that. So my father has been a government servant. He wanted me to become a IAS officer. I mean, that was pretty true for many kids who grew
Eligible bachelor,
yeah,
right?
many kids who were born in 70s and 80s. I was born in 80s.
Yeah.
And, so for them, studies for their children would be the most important thing, and they would sacrifice a lot for it. I remember there was a coaching institute I wanted to join in 11th standard to prepare for IIT JEE, and we didn't have enough money in the family, so my mom said, I can mortgage my jewelry for you to go to this coaching institute, which I was really moved by because I thought this is too much for you to do. And at the same time, they didn't allow me to pursue cricket. So there was an academy opened in Faridabad by Vijay Yadav. He was an Indian wicket keeper. And I was very keen to join it because I used to love playing cricket. But look, that was not to be. And so, bus, 11th standard, 12th standard, I studied. I used to see some of my relatives who were into business. I thought they had created much more wealth than others. And that in some ways gave birth to, me becoming an entrepreneur. But look, I was very naive in my view. So when I was at college, this was IIT Delhi, I was studying microwave engineering as part of one of my course. And I wanted to do an internship in microwave in India.
Microwave engineering is about cooking, right?
No, not cooking, the microwave. Yeah. So, and I wanted to find an internship in microwave technologies in India. And there weren't too many companies in India in microwave. There was Astra Microwave in Hyderabad. And I told my professor, who was who's been instrumental in working with APJ Abdul Kalam in India's, nuclear research program. And I told him very naively, मैं manufacturing facility set up कर सकता हूँ क्या? And yeah, look, that's fueled my dreams of becoming an entrepreneur. And then when I was in Bombay, after I joined Lehman, and then I worked with a vendor's capital as on the investment banking side, I used to meet founders every day, and I was deeply inspired by their journeys of how these guys were doing things on the ground, how cash flow was more important than P&L, and that sort of fueled my journey into being an entrepreneur. But yeah, look, that's sort of long story short of probably 70 years of my grandparents to my parents to me.
So Harish, how did your childhood shape you? Or
so again, the same story. My parents came from Pakistan actually, and actually we are twice refugees in a way. The first time from Pakistan, and then actually my dad went and we set up business in Punjab during the Punjab problem. And while I was just in my 10th grade or something, we actually ran out of money.
This was
completely.
in 1980s?
No, so this was in 1984, 80s, yeah. So then we had to actually leave everything in Punjab and come back. There was nothing. The business completely shut down, and then we ran out of cash. So it's just pure luck that I had only a fee of 265 rupees. I have the invoice still with me of college per year or per term, that I can't remember, because the fee doesn't say the term time there. And that's all we could afford. So it's pure luck actually, and that I managed to get through to IIT Bombay, where I studied. And again, it was not intended actually. I was not planning. Somehow circumstance happened that I managed to give the exam, because exams got postponed in Punjab because riots were on. So somehow it all worked out that I managed to. Otherwise, life would have been very difficult. And then and from there, I think the big shaping has been that money was always a something one was thinking of how to earn and how to make the family better off. Actually, one wasn't, it wasn't thinking too much about. I mean, there was no other choice actually. In a sense, I don't know whether and today's generation is very different, but I don't even think बस एक काम करना है, कुछ कमाना है, and how somehow to make sure you provide for the family. It was almost there was no other focus at all. And one ended up being an engineer also, not because I wanted to become, right. It's one of those things कि in 10th grade you decide कि ये करना है. So I actually did not want to become one. And then I didn't do an engineering job for a single day. I decided somewhere I met a person who's passed out and who passed out before me and had become a salesman at a computer company at HCL. So I met him in college and I was looking at the guy. I said, this guy is not doing any engineering. Almost, I was bottom of the class, so he was too. But he's talking so brilliantly, doing so well. So I decided very early, I will become a salesman at HCL in my second year, right? In college. Then I didn't do anything in the college. I applied only for one job. I went to them and told them, I've applied for one job. If you don't give it to me, I'll be jobless. So I was lucky. They said, okay, we will give you that job. So I was the only guy they hired that year.
Which was this job?
I was a salesman and it's selling computers.
Okay.
I wore a small little 20 rupee tie and walked the streets. I walked all the streets of Bombay actually selling computers. Still there were holes in my shoes. And actually, when you look back, it looks like there was a great plan or something. But no, it was very simple that one didn't have a choice that time. There were no choices to choose what to do from. And therefore, I have essentially developed an idea that I start liking what I do more than doing what I like. I think that's one fundamental difference which I see in my children also today. They want to do what they like, and I have learned to say, okay, I will like what I do.
Interesting point you have made.
Yeah. So it's just I don't have any.
Is this the difference between a constrained economy where all three of us belong to and they belong to an abundant economy?
Correct. Absolutely. I think you have choices that I think that
like your children also are part of the abundance.
Absolutely. So they have choices. They have the comfort, and I'm hopeful they're grateful for it. But they have the comfort of a backing, right? One had nothing on the back, right? You had to fight every battle. Live off a suitcase, sleep on the floor, whatever was needed, one had to do. And then one decided mentally that I will just do well, and then I like what I do. So essentially, that's another way to look at life, and therefore that again takes away a lot of pressure as to what has to be done. There is a job, you do it well, and therefore the whole mental framework is I need to do whatever I do well. I mean, that's the only thing that I would say. If you put a philosophy to it, I mean, if you're doing something, it's best to do it well, otherwise don't do it, kind of thing, I think.
This one, so I went to IIT Delhi as well, and obviously you get a little bit of a shock when you first land there because you're not expecting to meet such bright kids. And there are some people who I think do really well at IIT. I think their mantra is also very simple. You pick up a course, even if you don't like it, you hate it, you still do well. It's just so much discipline with which how people approach things. It's unbelievable. My roommate, and so we were interning in Bangalore at a startup called Etiquettes Systems. It was a smaller company then. It's now probably big. This was in 2004, and my flatmate was Institute rank 1 of IIT Delhi. Every morning he would wake up at 5, and he would go to the roof, like the terrace of the building, room, and he would study for GRE. And I would wake up probably at 8 o'clock, and then we would go to office for our internship, and then we would come back home by 7:30. Then he would read again. And then on Saturday and Sunday, this was 2004, there was a crossword on Brigade Road. And he would sit there since 9 a.m. till 9 p.m. and just read books. And one day I was just teasing him and I said, why don't I ask you some questions and let's see how you fare. So I picked up like the weirdest of words that I could ask him about, and he could answer it all correctly along with how this can be used in a sentence. And then when we were leaving Bangalore, this is the first time we were flying,
Okay.
because 2004-5 तो Air Deccan शुरू हुई थी and this was the first time I was flying because we went by Rajdhani from Delhi to Bangalore. So he said I can't take Air Deccan because I have. So he bought 50 books from Crossword and he must have read 200 during those days. And he said I'm going to take a train because इतना सब सामान Air Deccan में नहीं जाएगा. You know, this guy got 1600 out of 1600 in GRE.
Wow.
Like, it's unbelievable. Like, till 4th year, his GPA was 9.
But what's he doing now?
He pursued PhD in the US. But, you know, like, I think this philosophy of because you've picked it up, you do it well. I think I saw it, you know, at like peak capacity at IIT. I was just blown away.
I think it makes my life easier.
I'll just when I met Manish first time, it was a setup meeting by somebody, and Manish came with a list of 11-12 questions, well computerized, well drafted out, and reading out one question after the other. And I found it quite interesting. Maybe he picked it up then.
नहीं, मुझे लगा कि मैं पहली बार मिल रहा था. I must have good impression on him.
So Karishma, you have been brought up in a what do you call the abundance, and you have not seen shortages as such.
No, not
We have seen queues, shortages, movie tickets in blacks, and nothing available in time.
Yeah,
So what do you think about the stories what we tell about shortages? And
it's fascinating, but the thing is, I've heard so many such stories in my tenure decade right now. When they were talking, I was like, I should talk to the neighbor. I should get that story. But I was born into obviously in a family that hasn't seen all of this. We were given education. We're 3 sisters, but my father has had a profound impact on me and both my sisters, because the first thing we were taught, and we were taught with repetition, is that you have to make something of yourself. There is only that much that we will support you. There's only that much that that will get you that far. But after that, you have to make something of yourself. And it was never about marriage or be dependent on another income provider. You have to make money. And I think that, and I'm born into a Gujarati family, so I've seen business happening around me just growing up. I think that played a very profound, had a very profound impact on how I viewed the world and what I needed to make of myself. It was important that I made something of myself. It was important that I could be financially independent. It was important that I could stand on my feet without having to ask anybody for anything. And I think a huge part of my journey is having to live up to that expectation. And it's the same with both my sisters, actually, where we all 3 of us place a huge amount of importance on independence.
interesting. Ashutosh, आप लोग गुजराती लोगों में कुछ बात होती है.
No, so to the point, right? Gujjus, when people say that they have in their blood, right, business in their blood, probably to an extent it is true also, right? So to your point, right, us being a product of abundance, to a fact, right, to your point, Harish, I'll tell you, it is even more difficult if you're born in an affluent family and then you see the downtime.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because, and that's where I belong to, right? So my father has this typical story of four brothers and a sister living out of a room. Same room में एक ही kitchen है, bathroom is बाहर shared with 10 other families and stuff like that. And he makes himself a great business person, makes this empire for himself. 5 people have 5 bungalows and they have properties and they have great businesses, they have partners, or they deal with people like the Adanis or stuff like that. We live in a society where these people are our neighbors, right? And that's what I've seen. So since I've been little, I've always traveled business class. Now suddenly in 2002-3, those business class becomes slowly economy, right? The things don't go as per planned for my father, though great brilliant guy, right? And he is my idol even till date, right? So, and suddenly in 2006, there is a plan where trains are also like a far-fetched dream, where probably you could also think of traveling via bus. Now that is when my peak team is actually coming in, where my learnings are now coming first-hand, rather than me hearing stories of how things have been done. So that's where your struggle, or probably I would call it my personal growth, came from, right? Of knowing how he would have done it when they were living in with the 5-bedroom, and not hearing those stories of families bickering to you that हमारे time पे तो छुरी काटे भी नहीं थे, versus me actually trying to experience that firsthand, right? And that changed a lot of things for me, right? And that made me realize that if I don't do this, I cannot stay where I have got down to today. And I have to bring that back, not only for myself, but this is on my shoulders to bring it back for my family. right? Because they have done everything that they could to give me the education. Now it's my time to actually return. So my sort of a problem had more being of those at a very, very bottom level with the families of how to bring everybody together. Because when there is a problem with money, there are always problems with sort of relationships, right? And that starts not only from within your family, but your friends and your circle. Suddenly you see a lot of people stop inviting you to a lot of things just because your status has gone down, right? And so I actually come from, I'm a crop of that kind of, farm where I have seen from the best of the worst and now trying to bring in the best, right? And so everything that I have today, I'm very grateful to.
But that's the reason you look at exits of your business?
No, that is one of the reasons, yes. Not always, not always. I always feel when things are going great, right? You always think that this is never going to end.
Yeah, because it's a big thing to exit.
Yeah,
it's not easy to exit.
Yeah,
So I think he has done 2 exits.
Yeah,
Out of 3, and maybe he's ready for the third and ready for the fourth.
No, not really, not really. I think the first exit was to prove to myself and to everybody around me that there is value in what I'm doing. The second exit.
But because of that abundance to shortages, you decided to exit in a way.
Yes, in a way. Somewhere in my brain was not
that
every
this
time.
too shall pass in your
This
head,
too
right?
may pass,
Maybe
right?
something can go wrong again.
Correct. So I think while there is a chance, let me secure back that comfort and luxury.
But you want to just make sure that you're
He's back in business class.
Back in business.
Yeah. So I think that was the thought process with selling the first business. Now it's to prove a point that now I can do a better job of what I've been doing before.
Have a longer runway.
Have a longer runway in a much larger business without worrying too much about the basic necessities for me and the family. I think that's where I come from.
So I think the biggest thing that's going for India, when you compare India to any other country, is our family unit has stayed intact. And the family values have stayed intact. And that's not happened anywhere else. One of the biggest things that I think about when you talk about India versus China, we can talk about GDP, we can talk about per capita income, but the reality is that our family unit is much, much more at an atomic level, so much more powerful that China will ever have. They have a challenge actually. Women are not getting married today, they are not having children. Whereas in India, the family unit is staying intact. Our divorce rates, they're up from before, but they are not. The family still.
But so do you think that is also holding us back in a way?
Because, yes.
Right?
No. So there is the outer counterpoint that the women are not entering the workforce in a sense.
No, you are absolutely right. So sir, here is the thing, right? What I've noticed is there is so much of sort of indirect fear which has been installed into people.
Yes.
That bade ho ke yahi karna hai, yahi banna hai, this is how your life should be, and by the time you're a certain age, you should have a certain amount of saving. Now, to live example, I was out with a friend, a very good friend who has two kids, who is young, right? And wanted to do something. He was on the edge of almost leaving the company and starting on his own, right? What happened was father-in-law called. Yaar beta milne aa, I have to talk to you about something. 2 hours of lectures, this, that, installing more fear that if you leave your current job.
For stability.
Correct, right?
That's ingrained in the family because we've come through hard times.
Yeah.
So when he came back, same thing happened with the wife, right? Then when he went to talk to his mom, dad, his mom was like, nahi, ye nahi kar sakte, wo nahi kar sakte. Dad is like, kar beta, I'm there, right? Then he has brothers. Brothers both are also employed. They're like, why do you want to do this? You are also risking not only your life, but also your children's life. So suddenly, while he was on the edge of, he was just about to take the leap, he was being pulled back. Now, this is what I was talking about when I was talking about the family, right?
Yeah.
And what does he do now? Does he take the plunge? Does he not take the
What
plunge?
did he do?
Well, we are yet to find out.
That's still ongoing.
But you could have inspired him. You are a role model now.
No. So because of me, that plunge was coming. But there are 5 other factors pulling him back, right? So that's friendship.
I think this conversation like this probably can help people like them to take the plunge.
Yeah.
Because I think what can be the worst is what people need to first take a decision on. Kya hoega?
Yeah.
I mean,
that
as
comfort
long
has
as
to
your
go away.
Hand
that
and
comfort.
feet are working and you're able to apply your mind and deliver some value to somebody, you can come back and do a job. But I think the bigger thing is the stigma of failure needs to go away.
Correct.
Harish, we have a story.
In fact, one should say that उसने कोशिश तो किया, हमने तो कोशिश भी नहीं किया, right? Somebody
के यहाँ पे zeal भी है, but zeal का क्या करेंगे when people around you are still not only not supporting you, but
they should look at Karishma's example. 3 girls all want to work, be independent.
Because remember that generation has had.
Manish took a plunge from being a banker to a entrepreneur. It's a big plunge.
Correct.
So,
But you're correct in that sense that and I was thinking about it when you were talking, is that the family does desire for stability.
Yeah.
It instills it in.
But Harish, there are also
but
so
stories
that
of
very
your
simple
escape
advice.
velocity is the challenge, which I think comes from outside now. People are pulling people. When they see people like you, they say, okay, we should also do it.
But I have a
But
very
internal,
simple
there is no
thesis.
push out ki jaake kar lo.
Yeah, Manish is saying something.
I have a very simple thesis. Don't talk to too many people. Just jump.
नहीं पर लोग तो आ जाते हैं ना सामने से लोग सामने से आते हैं प्रॉब्लम वहाँ है
Arey, but as an entrepreneur, you have to avoid noise for all these years.
it's a good
I mean,
point.
for
Yeah.
10, 11 years, I have not read a newspaper.
Very,
Like,
very
nahi
interesting.
chahiye.
but Manish, here's the thing, right? How old were you when you started out,
27.
right?
No, but also remember, we are unique cases. See, we are from IIT Delhi. Remember, I used to always say, I have taken many risks in my life. What did I say? मेरे पास यार 2 डिग्री अच्छे इंस्टीट्यूशन से तो कुछ भी हो जाएगा. I will not be on the street. That may not hold true for many people. See, that's the big difference. Remember that education in India is so सरस्वती का वैल्यू लक्ष्मी से ज्यादा है, thankfully आज भी. तो आज भी education qualification, that's why you see parents all over the
But
country.
you know, I still don't see many IITians also doing it.
I know, but I agree with you that. But I'm saying somewhere, remember that when you're really not having all the, you should see what's the worst can happen should be thought through by a person and then take the plunge. And I agree with this point कि ज़्यादा लोगों का सुनोगे तो पूरा confusion ही हो जाएगा. See, one of the biggest things that an entrepreneur should have is one single thing, is clarity.
Yeah.
See, everything else follows later. If you have clarity of purpose and what you want to do, then everything forms around it. But the biggest failures you see also are because there is lack of clarity.
So do you think that the clarity blurs as the age also increases? Right, the clarity that you had 27, probably you wouldn't have done this if you were 37.
I don't
I didn't
understand.
have clarity,
Does
man. I just wanted
No,
to
no,
do
you-
it.
you-
No, clarity about doing it.
No, doing it.
Clarity about
Yeah.
doing it. What to do is a
I don't
you're
know
saying-
that, but
Right,
like,
because what if you had kids, right, and you had a steady income, you had stable, would you still think the same is where the point comes
look,
above
my
also
mom
sometimes?
thought I was not marriageable because I was making 10,000 rupees a month.
No, but it's correct. See, the moment you have family and kids, your desire also need for financial stability, I'll call it. I won't call it desire even, because there's need.
There's
Because what is the big thing that's been ingrained in you, that you have to make sure your kids are educated well. The costs of education are not going down. If you look at it, disproportionately high.
Yes.
Disproportionately high. As a percentage of our income, education all over the world has become disproportionately high.
So Karishma, what are the stories you have grown up in terms of entrepreneurs? Now, are stories not being told of entrepreneurs? Now the stories have
But
started.
ये तो true है ना, देखो स्कैम की फिल्में बनती है लेकिन फाउंडर्स की नहीं
वो
बनती
ठीक है,
है.
वो भी बनती है, कोई तैयार नहीं होता है. So there are reasons. I'll tell you there are reasons. So Karishma is recording a lot of stories.
Yeah, so the question is about my childhood or
No,
what I grew up
what are the stories you have seen? You are recording?
right
What are the
now?
stories you all have grown up with? What's entrepreneur stories?
Like it's unbelievable. I feel like especially during COVID, the amount of people who have started and taken that plunge simply because they don't have jobs. So now even the gender roles kind of reversed because men had lost their jobs. So women have started selling hair oil to pickle to all of these different things and putting it on social media. The one thing that you absolutely cannot discount parallelly happening in the past 10-15 years in India is the fact that you have the power to create your own brand just by having a cell phone. And it is very possible. There are people who earn millions of dollars by uploading videos and selling product as a result of that. We told the story of this 80-year-old couple who during lockdown have just started experimenting with different kind of herbs and come up with a hair oil that actually makes your hair grow. And while that happens, because the man was like, I was losing too much hair, my wife was not happy. So I was experimenting, made it, and they started selling out inventory 2-3 lakhs a month during COVID. And they're not from a tier 1 city. They were, I forget exactly where, but I feel like the balance also moved during COVID for entrepreneurship at least, where more people were like, okay, you know what, like the job security is gone for a certain segment of people, or like you're taking massive pay cuts. Entrepreneurship is not that bad. Even the youth, so many people started creating things from home just because it, like, to call it blankly, they were bored. There was nothing to do.
But that's done
Colleges
now.
were shut.
COVID is done, but we have to
But
make.
COVID में क्या हुआ है किशोर जी कि online businesses took off because offline got shut. But I think that impetus got withdrawn last year.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
But I think the entrepreneurship kida
Started.
came
No,
in.
but-
Came in.
Yeah, but the habit was built, right?
Also that if this person could do it, I can do it. That's important to see and mirror, right? Like more people in your society are taking on entrepreneurship. That's also an important message because it's something that was looked down upon as an unsafe option, an unstable option. So if you look at it in your networks, in your circles, you feel like, okay, I can do it, I can be it. And that shift is very important to drive more entrepreneurship.
Good. So what are the religious belief system you have grown up with?
Religious
Yeah.
beliefs.
Young generation, you would love to understand this. Yeah.
Wow, I was not expecting that question. So we believe in Vaishno Devi actually, and I believe in Krishna now, like in the present. That's just how it is.
You know, how that beliefs have shaped you up, or
And my father is he's a religious man to the point where like he goes to the Siddhivinayak Aarti at 4 a.m. every morning till
Wow.
date for the past like
4
3-4
a.m.
decades. 4 a.m. Aarti.
Wow.
Like
Wow.
he's there.
4 a.m. is there.
He's there. and
Wednesday
he-
morning or Tuesday morning. I can't
No,
remember.
every
Every
day,
day?
unless
wow.
and until like he's not in town, he's there and he does Vaishno Devi once in 10 days now. So he makes a trip. He's back in 1.5 days. He comes back.
And then he goes back again.
Yeah, in 10 days he goes back. He has some
connect?
pull, some connect because he lost his mother very early on. So for him, that is a mother figure that he needs to go and just see.
Wow.
Yeah, the faith played a huge part in, like it'll be okay. Like you'll pray. Like if we used to wake up in the morning, there used to be aarti praying. We don't have any brothers. We're 3 sisters, so we were made to tie our aarti to Ganesh ji, and my father would very sweetly give us a small
Yeah,
cover.
how it is shaping you? Matlab, what?
I think it just gives you that sense of courage. Also that faith that things work out. So if you ask me today how that has shaped me is that I'm not so much.
So that has given you confidence to become an entrepreneur.
No, it's given me just confidence to ride the wave. Because even in my father's entrepreneurship journey, he had factories, he's seen ups and downs. But his faith was so steadfast that things will work out, that it will work out for him. That's kind of passed on. Today, religion versus spirituality, I would lean more towards spirituality.
But that's a sophisticated word. Yeah.
No, it's not. It's just you don't look at like an idol. It's a mindset. So I meditate every day. I meditate for like 20-30 minutes.
Interesting.
Every morning.
So does faith can drive entrepreneurship? If you believe that if God will take care of me, and why can't that remove that risk in human beings to plunge into entrepreneurship?
That's a tricky one.
The biggest VC ever.
Yeah.
Don't worry. Yeah, here's
And,
the check.
But India is such an interesting.
India is driven by faith, but we have very interesting relationship with God. See, that's the point.
Yeah.
We use it when we need to. It's like a calling card. So it's not. So I don't know how much really we have faith versus how religious we are. I think there's a big difference. Our religious is कि मेरे को सर मैंने एग्जाम की पढ़ाई नहीं की है बट मेरे मार्क्स अच्छे आ जाएं. So थोड़ा I think we have a very
नहीं, बट जिसको थर्ड में आता है वो बोलता है वो फर्स्ट आ जाए, बट वो फर्स्ट वाला भी सेम पूजा कर रहा है.
वही so थोड़ा हमारा रिलेशनशिप थोड़ा है वो कन्वीनियंस का रिलेशनशिप है. I don't know. See, that's what I'm saying. When we use the word faith, we're using it very loosely. I think we have a really.
So what was your religious beliefs and faith?
No, so I don't have a religious belief. I just believe I'm a Hindu, and I think that is the most. It's the ultimate philosophy in the world. So I don't call it a religion. It's a philosophy where I think the basic tenet is do no harm at the very basic level. And I think whether you eat meat, don't eat meat, whether you go to temple or not go to temple, whether there is a certain way you are, and that's what defines a Hindu, not the ritual, but the way you look at the world and the way you treat others and how you expect to be treated. I think that is what has formed me. So I'm happy to go into a church, a temple, a masjid, whatever it is, because my sense is that none of these question my Hinduism, and my Hinduism is so deep that it starts from somewhere that says do no harm first. I mean that's the basic thing that I believe that all Hindus, all Hinduism, all forms and all our multi-million gods have taught us, and that needs to stay intact. And I don't think that defining it is the most undefined thing. It's a way of life. So I believe that way of life is what holds me together. So I don't think Hinduism a religion as much as a way of life and a philosophy.
Interesting. Manish, what are the beliefs you have
I'm
grown
not
up in?
very religious.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, my parents are. So
But
my
you would have
mom-
seen it all around.
Yeah. So, I mean, my dad, like, is a devout Hindu. My mom used to mix between Sikhism and Hinduism. So I've been to Gurdwaras quite a lot. I still go to them because they're very peaceful. But
But they would have shaped you in some way. Being good, what is the difference between good and pap and punya, good and evil?
you know,
Where-
not much. I mean, I've
No?
not been religious. Like, I've not been much religious at all. Like, and at home also, it's not been like too much. I mean, it's
No,
it's,
leave
it-
the ritual from the feeling. I think that's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
difference.
Yeah.
I think the ritual is not needed.
Yeah.
See, even if you're like Sikhism, I'm also my family, because Sindhis, we have also go to the Gurdwara actually in a way. So it's amazing that that's actually another philosophy only. Sikhism is not a religion. It's again a way of life, of how to be, how to do seva.
It gives you a specific feeling of
Yeah,
protection.
so I'm saying it.
Like I moved out. I live by myself now, and I was very shocked that over like 2-3 months I started feeling very like restless, and then I put this Krishna and Radha Murti near my bed, and every morning I light one agarbatti, and I was shocked at this behavior, because if you told me this, I would just be like, this is not me, but it just gives me a sense of peace early in the morning, or safety, and I don't know, I can't explain it. I don't think I'm a religious person, but I do this. So I think it's the feeling, or it's the habit, or I don't know, the sense of smell that takes you back to when you were a child and you were told to pray.
you know, I think the I would say the art of giving, to me, that's very important. So every time I would go to Bangla Sahib Gurdwara in Delhi, I would be amazed at how everyone serves, right?
Yeah.
I live in Powai. There are 2 Gurdwaras there. So every year on Gurpurab, we go and donate a lot of stuff. We go and serve people. But
But that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm asking.
Yeah.
It's not about rituals.
It's
Yeah.
not about ritual.
Yeah.
Because,
No, I think
and I think that's what we are blessed to be if we are Hindu, that the ritual is not defining
Yes.
what you feel.
I think for
that's
all of
the,
us,
that's the ultimate place where a religion or a spirituality can live, where the ritual doesn't define you.
so I think for all of us, what I feel is some of our moral ethics and values actually come from how we have been brought up with the religion, right? Because some were ke ye galat hai, and some were like paap lagega. Both were injected into us saying ke both are wrong, right? So don't do it. Now, in certain ways, when you become of age, you then actually understand that morally also that is wrong. So you shouldn't do it, not because a religion is saying this, because religion is always for the good, is why it was made in the first place, right? So I think that's how
So you're
I
saying
think
the moral
of it.
compass is implanted.
Implanted.
I
Because,
think that's the way to think about it.
Yeah.
That the moral compass is what's being put in, not whether you go to this temple or this temple or this thing.
correct. And that's how it shapes
So
you.
Manish made an interesting point in the beginning, wherein he talked about some models of governance. I want to be as transparent as this.
Yes.
Integrity, I think he said.
It's not absolutely a perfect world. And
Yes.
secondly, in our Indian society, we are born with something called subjective truth.
Yes.
The truth is always subjective, based on context.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
how-
convenience, thoda, that's what I'm saying.
And whenever I meet Manish or speak to him, I find him to be a perfectionist in a way. He wants things his way, very articulate, very much detail oriented, and but we live in a world which is so imperfect. So how do you blend this? Because subjective truth is still truth, and it's contextual. Every truth is contextual. So how can it be absolute the way you want it?
Yeah.
Look, I think from that integrity point of view, I think
No, integrity is fair enough. It's fully absolute. What about other things?
I mean, look, I think I would love to treat people how I would love to be treated. I think that's a way I look at it in life. And so, but I also think that there are lots of places where there are just conflicts of interest, and it's hard to trust people when, even though they might be very nice to you, but there is some conflict of interest. So I think, truth is obviously subjective. I think these people that I'm talking to who have conflict of interest with me will try to be as truthful to me as possible, but at the end of the day, they are still getting influenced by that conflict of interest. Like just yesterday, I was speaking to a founder who wanted to sell his company, and I also spoke to one of the investors in the same company. and the investors said, you know, great things about the company because probably he wanted to exit.
Yeah.
And the founder actually told me a very different story. So, and I know this investor also really well for many years now. So I don't get offended by it. I just think everybody is operating with a little bit of that conflict of interest in their mind, where there's self-interest, you know, like while I think that self-interest was very small and that should not influence your relationship with me, but in many ways I think it's just like, if I were in their shoes, would I have behaved differently? Maybe the answer is no, or maybe the answer is yes, I don't know. So I think it's very contextual, you know, like
Yeah, that's what we call.
yeah.
What do you
We
do
are a
about
bundle of
integrity?
biases, by the way.
No,
Human beings
in the
is
last-
a complex bundle of biases. हमें ये अच्छा लगता है, हमें ये अच्छा नहीं लगता है, और हमें ऐसा
bias तो ठीक है,
bias
सबका
नहीं,
ही है.
bias to bias in the behavior also, how we get biased by the situation, right? That's what Kishore is talking about. That situational truths are created.
What do you do about
sit-
integrity if somebody's been bad to you? This is like just conflict of interest, or it's like there's a vested interest. So I'll hide certain things or build up certain.
Yes.
That's an art like of manipulation that certain people operate on. Or if somebody's been downright bad to you, and it's then your integrity comes.
Manish
into
will give you an
question.
absolute answer.
I think just like I have seen this in the last 2 years once in a very big way, and that particular situation, we just really moved to the next orbit and just sidelined that person in 10 minutes. Right? Like there was somebody who was doing this at one of the orgs that we were acquiring, and was not being truthful to us at all. Something else was being spoken while something else was being discussed. And one night, all 4 of us sat together and we said, 10 minutes, we will sideline this person and just move forward in life. So I think once you are very sure of the fact that somebody is being willfully, you know, like lying to you, then I think you just move very fast. And even if this person is many years senior to you, it doesn't really matter in life. Like, you know, I mean, it's a little uncomfortable situation,
Yeah.
but look, you have to do it. And I think it was the right thing to do. And the next morning, we just took full control.
So in my space, these people are not people you talk to across the table. They are. It's just online, on digital, right? Like where nasty things are said about you.
Like the trollers you're talking about.
Not just like exaggerated trollers,
Right,
you know, where they're like out to get you.
But they ignore.
Yeah.
Like,
That you
I mean,
can't
99% of people who complain to me on Twitter about Purple service are actually trying to defraud us.
Yeah.
Like 99%.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
Yeah, because
99%. And the language they will use is full of expletives. They will attack me on my Facebook. They will attack my wife on her Facebook handle.
do you think there is a value of a EQ versus IQ here also? Even though you know this, right? Your EQ quotient may be a little high to not really ignore it completely and still get hit by it a little bit.
Yeah.
And I think that's what she's
Yeah,
talking
like
about
it's
in a way,
impossible
right?
because sometimes you're human, you know, you're
Yeah,
just
yeah.
like, oh my god, how can you be
just
so
don't
nasty?
look at your phone through the day. Like just keep it aside.
Yeah,
business is on my
for that
phone.
she has to be brutal, right? Like us, like it shouldn't
My
matter.
business is on my phone.
So that's what one has to learn from Manish.
Yeah.
So he is one entrepreneur
No, so-
who has not read newspapers.
Yeah.
I have switched, like the last time I read a long article and that was about future consumer 2.0. It's a very interesting story. I'll probably tell some other time, but yeah, look, you just shut away.
I read this somewhere that the best way to kill something is to just not give it energy. Like
Absolutely.
just shut it out, don't talk about
Just
it.
white noise, you know, white noise it out.
So you
That's
know
it.
this, so why did you ask him?
No, because it's so hard to actually execute. Because if you're in this space and you're 24/7 just dealing, you know, like we've had like 2-3 months where every Thursday, Friday, just around the weekend, something is going wrong, and we're like firefighting. You don't want to be in firefight. You want to create. You want to build. But you're dealing with people saying negative things, or you know, like.
But you know, I would like, if I were to reflect on myself, my days are so intense. I have no time for this. Like absolutely. Like I'm looking at my phone at probably 8 in the night, and I'm like, छोड़ना, अभी तो सुबह का पोस्ट किया हुआ है किसी ने, अभी रेस्पॉन्ड करके भी क्या फायदा है. So
And people will do all this. I mean, there's no getting away from it. And
I mean, his
and
offices
social
have been
media is created
Your
a tool
office
for
have-
people to hit people from far with no skin in the game at all.
Yeah.
You can just say whatever you want. It's just
Your offices have actually been hit.
yeah,
not
yeah,
just on
actually
social
been hit.
media.
Exactly.
So Ashutosh, how have you thought about categories here? Matlab, you have got the right categories at the right time. Matlab, you started with the first company, Beardo, right?
Oh, yes, yes.
That was during when Virat Kohli started sporting a beard.
Yeah. That was
exactly.
just around that time when I also used to have a beard, right? So I think most of the solutions come from your own sort of problem, right? That's one way to look at it. But the other
But
way
that's very well said. It's good for writing a story.
yeah, exactly. But the actual thing is this, right? That what we have learned is this: if you know how to sell, you can sell anything. The focus for us was this: that whatever I'm going to do, I want to be number one in that. I'm not doing something to be number two. And to become number one, you should know what number 2, 3, 4 are doing wrong, right? So that you don't repeat those mistakes. And secondly, there is nothing called too cluttered market in India. That is something that I've seen. If you do it right, if you know what you're doing, and if you know that you are hitting your consumers right, I think you can top everybody else. So that is how we are just increasing the size of market that we are in. So when we are at Beardo, the whole men's grooming was probably 6,000-7,000 crore. Then when we went into sort of perfumes, which was more like a hobby, that was also 10 to 12,000 crores. I said, this can be a lakh plus crore market size and let's try to do it there. That's how Renee came into picture. That if we are able to take over...
But how did you understand the consumer? Were you married that time, women around you? How did you learn?
No, not really. I think there are a lot of consumers around, a lot of friends, families around, right? And also this whole journey, right? Like I said, of being the top-notch user versus being a very mass brand user, gave me that whole kind of a delta of how people
so tell
think.
us how Beardo began. I mean, where did you get the idea that I need to launch this kind of business?
No, so I think here was the thing, right? So we were very clear. Is when you want to get into a category, you have to define your niche. And that niche opens a gate which can then flood and go into multiple other categories. I can't just come in and say, okay, mera face wash le lo, this is a men's grooming brand and my face wash is better than already that 100 crore face wash which is already selling, right? So there has to be a pick point here. And the picking point for us was beards, because beards and men go together. Macho-ness, that manliness, right? A sort of language that you can speak to your consumers, at least most of India, right? Yeah. And that you have to find that key to your consumer's heart and see how you can speak to them. That is how brands are created. Product companies to bahut hai, but brand creation only can happen if you can speak to your consumer right in a true language. That's how Beardo came into picture.
And where did you learn about brand creation of a brand? How do you do? What do you mean by brand beyond a label? So how do you look at a brand there?
I feel this comes from more of a gut, and that gut comes from a lot of experience of looking into yourself of why do you want something, right? For an example, the watch industry today, right? After just after COVID, like the Rolex, the Patek, and the EPs are not available, whereas all the other watch brands are available. Suddenly there is a lot of demand. Why is that, right? So there is a level of aspiration that you have to create for somebody to want you, right? And that bridge is where the brand is created.
So how did you learn that?
Learning came as we went on. I think that was a process, right? Rather than taking some key.
But you would have studied some brands?
Not really.
No.
Because I think what happened was in India there was not a lot of abundance of brand. Those are all legacies, and legacy for me may be a brand today, but may not be relevant tomorrow also, because they have come from such a long time that they have kept on changing. That is why they are surviving today. I feel that brand creation today is a very different story than that used to be 20-30 years ago. And hence, a lot of brands that I saw were more Western. And Western brand comparison to Indian markets is absolutely unfair. I think that is what a lot of people do, and I try to restrain or refrain from getting into that.
Yeah, exactly. You see, Western markets, I mean, where we learn all branding from is America. America is a homogeneous market, largely, or 2-3 large segments. India is 100 small markets. That's one of the challenges we have. We have small markets, but clearly the segment, we are under branded in a sense.
Yeah.
Because you can create ideas and brands for segments of the audience which are all heterogeneous. There is no homogeneity here.
Yeah, so to your point, right, learning also comes from what the consumer is giving you feedback, whether we are hitting them right, whether they are understanding what we are trying to do. And if they tell you the answer that you want to listen, I think that's the branding creating. I think that's, so for me, branding learn process was more like a 4-5 year process. And now we can do that.
So how did you get
easily.
feedback from people? I mean,
we used to go and stand in the stores, sit in salons for 3 to 4 hours, right? So to your point, sir, of earned learning, right? We were told that distribution to GT में ही होगा. right? Empty में ही होगा. But we said no. Why? So because we did not know how to do it, we went to salons. Because men normally go to salons at least once or twice a month. वो GT स्टोर में जाता है, कहीं पे स्टोर पे जाता है कि नहीं जाता है, that we don't know, but salon में जरूर जाता है. And men were loyalist in a certain way of using products, right? Always. So we have to be always told or sort of referred to कि भाई ये use करो.
बस कौन सी कॉलेज कहाँ पढ़े हो आप?
I studied at SM Patel. There's a college in Ahmedabad, amazing college, and then I did my postgrad from Brunel University, London.
Good.
Yes. A very different. I think none of what I've learned actually comes into play when you're talking to, when you're dealing with distributors offline, and you know you are a legend in this, right? So I'm sure you're the best example for that.
But interesting, he's making all the points which are so much in tune or so much relevant today. And you got a lot of celebrities working with you.
Yeah, like a lot. I've always felt that one face cannot be your brand identity. A brand is always bigger than one face, right? So you always have to work with relevant faces in the relevant time period. Picture आ रही है, ठीक है? Some guys are great, sort of a celebrity, but the relevance of them being great is only for those 3 or 6 months till the movie is out there. Once that passes away, you can't just rely on that particular face or identity. You have to move on, and you have to keep doing these churning faces so that more and more people can be reached in those time periods, and that is very important.
Manish, you are using a lot of faces, and you acquired faces also. So
Yes.
a lot of celebrities and
Yeah, look, I think I have a slightly different view on this. I think trust with celebrities is at an all-time low, right? At least in categories that I deal with. I think trust with regular human beings is on social media, people you can relate to, is probably at an all-time high. I think content posted by humans of Bombay will be treated with more trust than probably content posted by, some Bollywood celebrity. You have to be very careful with who you choose. Yeah, look, so I'm not a big fan of it. We work with two people. I think to your earlier thing on brand, I think, brand is this fuzzy feeling about a label or a product which goes beyond the usability of that product. Like there is something you just like about it. You're not really sure as a consumer what you like about it. Like I like Humans of Bombay. I'm not sure what I like about it. I've read few stories, but you can't really articulate it.
Yes.
Like it's very hard to tell why you like it. There was a brand we invested and bought in 2020. It's called Carmezy. We just loved the brand. It was very small at that point in time. If you walk around in our office and you ask anybody, like beyond the product, they don't know what to say, but they will just say, I think this is the best thing we've created so far. So I think, and I think the other point on how do you meet your consumers or how do you learn or get feedback, today data is your best help. So you can get granular level data on Andhra, Telangana, Kerala, Karnataka, Tamil Nadu, maybe even deeper level data on what's getting searched in Mysore and what people in Mysore are talking about you. So, the more and more you can capitalize on that data, the more feedback you can get.
And gives you freedom to experiment also, right? You can discover
and
things.
look, India is many Indias. Like I grew up in North, it's called Amla, Rita and Shikakai. But in Andhra, it's called Kunkadkai. In Kerala, hibiscus is called Chembaratti. And I used to feel like, I was talking to a consumer in Northeast and I asked her, which are your top 3 categories? I don't think it'll be the top 3 for us. So, sunscreen, post-sun care, and hair color.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I was like, this is so different.
Yeah.
And I asked her, आप कौन से festival celebrate करते हो? Me being, raised in North India, growing up in Bombay, I asked her, Diwali बड़ा है क्या? She said, नहीं, New Year और Christmas बड़ा है. तो हम 15 नवंबर से shopping करते हैं अपनी. I'm like, this world is so different. So India is many Indias.
So like I always say, India is the country of 7 major religions, 6,400 caste and subcaste, 29 states, 1.4 billion people. You can get more heterogeneous than this.
Absolutely.
But that actually makes it even more difficult and a much challenging task to create a brand, because then you are talking to different people in a very different style.
But at least another way to start is that at least you have a ready audience if you can hit them.
Yes,
Yeah,
of course.
So it's
absolutely.
both parts of the game.
Absolutely.
Scaling becomes a challenge, but starting is not as difficult probably.
Right.
नहीं बट 200-500 करोड़ का तो एक दो
उसके
स्टेट में
वही
बना
बोला,
सकते
वही बोला,
हैं
उसके बाद
and all our festivals are around consumption, and we celebrate 72 major festivals in this country.
72 minutes.
72 major festivals.
yeah.
So
No, we are living, as I say, every day you should be grateful you're living in this fascinating
Yeah.
journey of this country. It's absolutely fascinating.
So you have dealt with a lot of celebrities and this smile is telling something, but anyway. So it was the nature of your business. So how do you deal with celebrities and how do you make them work and make them influence people to buy or consume?
So I have actually, my learning, unlearning is I've spent life in broadcast business. So everything was about that if you do the product right, everything else will work, right? If you make Oppenheimer or you make a great movie, you do the right thing at the center of the business, and then everything will, because the consumption was very easy, frictionless, go to theater, go to OTT, whatever. So you have to get the script right, product right, cast right, all that, right? So everything is central. But when you go into other businesses, absolutely the reverse. It's every part of that journey, distribution, what's happening at the ground, what do consumers do? It's all starts mattering more and more. It's not just the one thing that builds it. So I think for me the biggest thing has been that from a central idea being perfect to getting 20 things right is how a business becomes successful. So it's the execution at every level that makes the difference. Which is what
नहीं but I think अभी distribution भी बहुत democratize हो रहा है
नहीं, हो
I
रहा
mean
है।
like
नहीं आप
At-
ऑनलाइन कर रहे हो तो but I'm saying online also has gone through its journey of pain, right?
Sure.
You've seen how much how many billions have been lost in getting execution right in online. So
And it's still happening.
huh?
It's still happening.
It's still happening. But I'm saying, remember that the amount of money and investment that's gone to getting that right, and that much money is not gone into retail trade actually, right? It's how much money is gone into getting delivery. I know we are enjoying the fruits of that. So the good thing about technology businesses, which was not there in traditional business, was you couldn't build a business on top of another business. See, I think that's the fundamental difference between a digital business and old business. You can build your payment on top of Razorpay. All the work that Razorpay has done is available to you to build on, right? I'm just giving you one example. So I think that collaboration, that you can sit on top of other people's effort. You're sitting on top of, let's say, ShipRocket's effort or Delivery's effort, then Razorpay's effort, then Shopify's interface, right? That is the most fascinating thing for the future. And that's why you and I are wired in the old DNA. And the young people today have the ability to pull together businesses.
yeah we can do plug and play
Right? That's the fantastic thing. So your entire effort can be put on the idea which you want to form.
Yeah.
The rest of the infrastructure is
that's
all
why
available on tap.
That's where people like Ashutosh can build so many
Yeah,
things.
absolutely. In
Yeah,
fact,
no, thanks to you guys, of course.
it's available on tap. Imagine the most sophisticated payment system in the world is available with NPCI, UPI, right? You're the most sophisticated delivery tracking systems are available, the most efficient CRM systems available. In our times, we've had to build each element ourselves.
Right.
You can hire a fresh desk to do this job. You can hire a Razorpay to do this job. You can hire a cloud service to do this job. I mean, it's the ultimate time of creation, and remember that India again is going to lead in the next few decades on this front because the market is there. We have not penetrated fully on the consumption front. We're not saturated, and our young people like know how to use mobile technology more than the Americans even actually.
So Manish, how can we make a category grow and consumption grow in the country?
I think content is a big driver. Absolutely.
We have somebody on content there.
Like my view, I mean, we don't know these numbers fully, but my sense is YouTube's MAU would be like 600 million people in India.
Yeah.
Right? Like, so anybody who can remotely consume anything in India is watching YouTube.
And the cost of reaching them is zero.
Yeah, cost of reaching them is just cost of content production largely. And through a long form content, you can actually educate people a lot. Like I'll tell you, when we started in 2011 December, blushes didn't exist as a category. Mascara was like very new to India. Highlighters were not there in India. There was nothing called so many of these categories, scalp serum, none of this existed. I mean, in India, probably face washes entered in 2003. So I'm saying today, with content consumption at your fingertips, like you can build demands and build categories that erstwhile didn't exist at all. I mean that's very, very clear. And I think, to your point, it's a time, it's that time of lifetime of building in India, where I think, so many of these confluences are happening where I think India has had political stability. We've had obviously technology advancement, which is reasonably unparalleled. And I think at some level, on the societal side also, I feel that, our average number of kids born in a family are now just 2 or maybe little less than 2. We have more money to feed our children than we had probably 20, 30 years ago. So there is a lot more consumption that's going to happen in this country. I always hope so. I've always been a little disappointed, in the past 20 years. But
there is no straight line in India.
Yeah, there's no straight line. But, I think it's a great time to be building in India.
Right? I'll also tell you, for probably the old guns, right, like you guys, I think there was sort
Old
of
guns.
the enablement was always there.
Yes,
Right?
spears.
No, so probably after freedom. So from 70s, 80s, I think there was enough opportunity for even you to build, right? So there was enabling happening since the 70s, 80s. So today what you feel is probably easy for us, in our time is just enabling. So for you guys also must have happened, right?
No. But
So
I
many
think
open
in our
markets.
times it was very difficult to be very
Really?
honest. Like Harish was
Difficult
saying,
to
like
reach people.
we had to build our own logistic company. We
Everything.
thought we have to give credit. That time credit was not given to the consumers. We thought we have to build a consumer credit company. So we had to build everything on our own.
I see.
So loyalty
Disposable
programs,
income
everything.
also.
There was
Frankly,
nothing.
the fact is that our disposable incomes, I mean, I see we don't, India, we have all the data in private companies, but very not so good data available publicly actually. But if you look at a family, even if they have 2 children and they get up and they're living together in a small house, and let's say this is a lower middle class family, 2 kids, let's say, even take up jobs at 20,000, 25,000 rupees a month. And they stay still at home. The disposable income of the family, suppose they were saving, let's say, 10,000. Suddenly the saving changes to 40,000 rupees a month.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I think what you're seeing now is an impact of some of these other things that are not being actually, data is unavailable and we are not doing enough surveys. But at some level, what you're seeing outside us and all the growth that we're seeing is a function also of the disposable income change. And that's when you get money to put the highlighter and the mascaras and your
No,
grooming.
I have a view on this disposable income, Harish.
Yeah.
We did some work around understanding India and the consumption pattern of India and the people who consume value-added products. And the study came out that there are 30 million households which consume value-added products in the country. What I used to call India 1.
Correct.
The people who have anybody who has some domestic help to live their life better.
Correct.
This 30 million households is also divided into 3 parts. One is something exactly like a Singapore, 65 to 70 lakh people. They consume like Singapore, per capita GDP is like Singapore. The another 3.5 crore people is like Poland. Very similar to that. And third, the big chunk of people out of the 12 crores, around 8 crores, maybe around 10 crores is something like what you call Mexico. And the consumption pattern is again fueled by what you call credit now. Because personal credit has
Improved
imploded a lot.
dramatically.
And our savings rate have dropped below 10%.
Yeah.
So it's not the savings which is driving consumption. It is credit which is driving consumption at this moment. The aspirations of this Mexico people is rising a lot and they don't have enough money to spend.
So they're borrowing and spending.
They are borrowing and spending.
And then working hard to pay it back.
Working hard to pay it back and they are working hard to pay it back.
Yeah, working hard to pay it back.
Yeah.
And that's the reality. I mean, that's
And
how.
so India is many Indias within India, and then there is then there is a huge population which are buying commodity plus some value addition.
Plus some value.
So this value added economy is happening in one part of India which is around 30 million households, and that also from
No, but I'm
Mexico
saying again, coming back to my idea was that at the family level, because if the incremental income that comes to the house and the kids are staying at home, remember that. That's what my context was. That
but there is so much of other expenditure which is going up. The entertainment as an expense.
No, they've gone up.
The
but
travel as
I'm saying
an
that
expense.
money is coming in extra to that family. That family is buying the next
But
TV, buying the next ceiling
but the
fan
aspirations are rising much faster
for the young people.
for the young
And the
people. Like Karishma has moved into her own house,
Yeah. No, not at this segment of society, of course.
but she belongs to Singapore.
Belongs to Singapore.
So what made you move into your own house?
Independence.
What is that independence?
What were their parents stopping you from doing it?
That we stopped. Just like there's a lot of production stuff going on in my house all the time. Like there's like hair, there's makeup, there's stylists, there's people just in and out.
Maybe for that reason.
Yeah, I just wanted my own space, and I wanted to I didn't want to still be like I know this is not a bad thing, but like I felt almost like I was like freeloading, because I'm not paying rent, I'm not paying for like groceries, I'm not paying for like
Freeloading was free helicoptering.
yeah, like I couldn't do it. I was just like, I need to pay my bill. Like I just, I need to, this has to happen in a structured way.
Very interesting. So what do you feel about independence? What is that kind of independence?
I think it's absolutely necessary, right, for your own growth. But with me, what happened was, when I actually wanted to move out, there is no acceptance with the parents. Like, छोड़ के जा रहा है, अब हमारी उम्र हुई है, जब तुम छोड़े थे तुम संभाला, right?
Acceptance.
Right, number one, that
was not there. But I was like,
right, and then second is that थोड़ा privacy, right? Come of age, ये वो, we have a circle, family, stuff like that. So what is privacy? You have your door. हमारा तो दरवाजे भी नहीं होते. That's how it starts, right? दरवाजे भी नहीं होते. अब तो एक रूम में रहते. I was like, it's difficult to explain them. But I think it's also important.
See, also remember that the parental generation also needs you, because that they have to navigate a new world.
Absolutely.
So it's like almost like a give and take.
Absolutely,
We would rather have you near us. You can help us navigate.
I have actually bought a house 5 minutes away from home,
yeah,
so
correct.
I can
That's
walk, right? So that's the only sort of independence needed, right? It's not that कि आपको छोड़ के जा रहे हैं. It's just that कि we also learn. I think when you become independent, you learn a lot of other skills, like basic skills to manage a house.
Yeah.
Right, पानी नहीं आ रहा है, काम वाला नहीं है, ये वो, so stuff like that. So that also instills a little bit of kind of skill set in your basic nature as a person. I think that's what I feel personally.
But they would be very happy if I got married and moved out.
Then
Navigation is not
Then their job is done. Then their job is done.
I'm like, it's one and the same thing.
You got married and moved out?
Yeah.
That's done. That's still okay.
That's still okay. But being 5 minutes away, see, I'm saying that is also.
But that is what Santosh coins it, na? Modernity is equal to negotiated tradition.
Exactly. Negotiate. I think that's the big thing that's happening. And I'm saying it's a great thing that it's not breaking. It's just getting negotiated.
But then he will be, how much independence will he give to his children? They are all inborn in a certain
story of my life is still pending. But I'm actually yet to get married also. But yeah, I do have a girlfriend, and I've moved out like that. But yeah, but that acceptance was also not there. But the fact that, okay, finally the boy has agreed to get married and now he wants a life, that is fine. But when I wanted to move out alone, that was a big no-no.
Yeah, I can.
But it's a give and take. Can we be like the Western countries? We cannot, and there's no need to be. We are the way we are. I think that's the unique thing about India. We are like this only, right?
This move seemed very pioneering, and I was like, but I'm just moving out of my house. So it's okay. It's not.
That was us being rebels.
They'll worry about
the rebellion.
आप खाना time पे खाओगे, क्या खाओगे? It's just
everything is solvable. It's just.
But maybe coming back to entrepreneurship, I wanted to ask you this thing. In your view, what is the importance of focus in entrepreneurship? You've done a few different things.
Too many different things.
And too well.
No, I think somebody, I have introspected a lot on this subject. And focus is something which is very left brain aligned. Okay, you focus on a particular thing and keep on perfecting it and keep on improvising it and keep on doing it well. And I was very right brain aligned. For me, creation was a big thing. And consumers accepting it, millions of people liking it, was a much bigger kick of life than doing one thing and perfecting it. I was not made that way. So I think it depends on the way you are made. What I see, you are a left brain aligned. You are focused, you want to do things in a certain way, you don't look at phones, you don't look at the media, you are too much into yourself and do your thing in a particular way. So is there a right or a wrong? It's how you are made. And whether I enjoyed the journey of creating many products, many categories, many brands, I loved it. And the idea is you cannot have both the skills together. Very rarely you will find this skill rarely in a person that he is creating and executing at the same time. That's why the combination of CEO comes in, CEO and CFO comes in. You have to work in pairs. I think that's what the new generation is doing. The new age economy is coming with co-founders.
Yes.
and one certain person has a certain skill and certain person has a certain skill. I didn't have that
Luxury.
luxury of that focus skill of somebody along with me who was so
just doing.
focused and could execute exactly. But we had thoughts around execution, which was quite perfect. But there were thoughts.
Talk about it.
So thoughts was creating an organization design.
Uh,
My organization design was on creation and control, creation and execution.
mm,
So creation was something which I used to do, and execution was something which we build a team to do it.
mm,
But then you have to build a review mechanism, and the reviewer cannot be the person who is a creator.
mm,
That was the problem we had.
mm. Nice, nice.
I'm a
So-
solo founder, so I really miss I don't have a partner to run the business. So I really miss that.
But your the right side of the brain, your business is right side of the brain, everything is right
No,
side.
some decisions have to be
that's
very
okay.
not.
You ask the Bhagwanji next to you, he'll give you
No.
answer.
Yeah.
No, sir, we want to know more about your stories probably. What is that one story that has always been by your side when you were building what you built, the empire?
No,
that you built?
our story is quite documented, quite well known. So I think it's a journey, it's an era which is different. It was a very different era. I think the consumption was just happening. People were willing to spend money, and I think what we did was creating categories in a big way. What you are doing in a particular way. So every category which we worked on creating a category. Whether it was in fashion, whether it was in beauty, whether it was in any other. A lot of people who came to our stores were using that category for the first time, and they were in
Kishore,
millions.
what I found unique when I met some of people in your team was that you tried to transfer ownership, that karta thing, right? Maybe you should talk about that, because I don't know whether it worked out or not, but one of the biggest challenges that's been happening in management is that how do you get ownership in the team, right? So they take it over and they execute as if it's their own. And you tried many experiments on that front, right? In organization design.
So we used to do that for our stores. Every
because-
store we used to create something called a karta ceremony, and we used to hand over the keys to him and the business plan to him, and we did a ceremony along with his family and along with the entire staff, so that we are giving the entire responsibility of the store to you. So you are responsible for all the people working here, to your customers. The keys are with you, and you are responsible for the balance sheet and not the balance sheet, but the P&L of this store. And that instilled a lot of confidence in that team. And I think we had a retention rate of our store managers were very, very low, very, very low. And people used to drive business like crazy.
But
I
what
think
drove
that-
you through the years? Like that one sentiment, was it ambition? Was it
I think joy of creation. It's crazy. Ask him. He comes from a very banking background, and from there to creating something. I think that joy can be
fully
that joy
rigid
can be,
corporate structure to create
that joy
something.
can be unparalleled. Ask him.
Yeah,
He has created something. You have created something. So I think that joy is unbelievable. Yeah.
Yeah, that joy is beautiful.
When you create something at which millions enjoy, it's like your child. Yeah.
Yeah, that rush, that adrenaline
Yeah,
that
yeah.
has you up.
And that's what entrepreneurship is all about.
Yeah.
And that's the whole idea of entrepreneurship in a way, that how can we create more entrepreneurs in this country? Because the education system doesn't teach you to be an entrepreneur.
Not at all.
And the education system, how relevant it is today in the age of
It's
AI.
becoming
where
increasingly irrelevant, actually. Increasingly irrelevant.
How did you go from an HCL salesman to what you're doing today? I mean, that's a major shift, right? Somebody.
So I just decided to be doing something new all the time. That's all. So I moved from technology to media. In media, I moved from music to television to films. So I just kept on saying, okay, whatever is new, I can't do the same thing again. That's the only thing. So I have to keep on trying, and always been largely in early stage of startup businesses. Whatever was starting new. So somehow it's like a joy of building, actually, not creation. Probably I'm not responsible for creating too many things. But I call myself the midwife. So I would be I would get the baby kisi or, but I would build it from the bottom up. And that building and the mistakes you make and this whole job of really transferring ownership, I call management that only. How do you find a way to instill pride of the job in other people, and so they start doing it as if it's their own, and then delegation is a very weird word, actually. It's actually transfer of ownership.
So
I
we
think-
also worked on we created a position called the Chief Belief Officer in the organization, and that was also very interesting because we again this whole theme also is around the beliefs in a way that
Correct.
how, and we said that beliefs will shape behavior and behavior will shape the outcomes.
Right.
And if the beliefs which you create. Beliefs are created by the mythologies, the stories, the rituals, and what you see, the education system, people around you. And then it results into your behavioral thing, whatever your personality is, and that will determine the outcome of what you do.
Yeah.
So he comes from a very interesting background. So IIT firstly, then into banking, and he has seen partition. So if you look at dissecting after
The
hearing
belief
his story,
system,
his belief systems has resulted into outcome which is creating a very great organization,
Right.
and a perfect organization who is not bothered about anything which is happening around you.
Yeah.
So his focus and concentration is so heavy. I have not met anybody till date who is. There are very few people I have met who would be as focused as what Manish would be.
Fantastic. Showing up in the work. Outcome is showing.
His belief and behavior is resulting into the
outcome.
outcomes. I think certainly there will be some beliefs about him, and that's what his behavior. I'm loving his behavior. I love his independence. I love his white shirt.
Thank you.
I love his torn jeans and his sneakers, which are the latest thing in fashion.
Yes.
Must be worth on a resale value. It will be 25,000-30,000 now, or a lakh.
Close to that. I only wear things because I like them, not to show off. So I'm not bothered about what the resale value is. I would like to enjoy what I'm wearing. Yeah? That's how I see
Karishma has a
comfort.
very independent. So her belief system has shaped her independence.
Correct.
Although coming from such a religious family and parents and being independent, I think is a story by itself.
Yeah.
So,
Tell us something more about how you started in the initial stages,
Yeah.
right?
It was just a camera, and I used to go around asking people, like, tell me your story. And I used to literally be like, I'm from college, so for a college project. Because nobody in Bombay, if you stop somebody, it's like you're asking them for their lung. Like they don't want to stop. So, but my first shoot was on Marine Drive, and this one woman spoke to me for like 45 minutes to an hour, and just met, and I couldn't understand how you can share
You
so
just
much.
bumped into her on
No,
Marine
she
Drive?
was sitting on that on the parapet, and I went
Yeah.
and said, do you mind chatting with me for college? And then she really started talking to me. She just lost
That's
her.
amazing.
Yeah, she just lost her husband.
We used to run a home shopping channel, and then we discovered that people would call up randomly and talk for 25 minutes with no intention to order. Somebody there to talk to them.
So Harish, there was a person who used to come to one of our stores in Vasant Kunj, who used to come every day to talk to sales staff and distribute some sweets every day.
Yeah.
Because he said, I'm old man, I have nobody, my
Yeah.
children have gone abroad, and this store is my family. And there are so many stories like this in the stores. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's that sense of being heard.
Heard. Yeah, no, I'm saying
there's
that's
somebody
the reality.
yeah,
Somebody's there to listen,
Yeah,
to
to
talk.
listen. Yeah, and she spoke to me for 45 minutes, and she spoke to me. She just lost her husband, so she had to go back into work and take care of her kids. And I was like, I can't believe she just told me all this randomly on the street. So then I started writing. I published on Facebook, and it just took off. It really took off. And then you were mentioning brand, and you can't tell what it is about certain brands, but it's a feeling. It gives you a very distinct feeling of like warmth or comfort. So I met this person very early on in my career, and he told me that I love Humans of Bombay, and he was I didn't expect him to read my content because I thought it's mainly youth oriented, but he said, I love your content, I'll tell you why. In India, we had this very unique system growing up when he was growing up, saying that we used to live in these houses which were very cramped together, but all our doors used to be open, and there were always kids running around, and somebody would borrow something, or somebody's made something, they would go and give it to somebody else. That is the fabric of what Indian society is built on. You've brought that front porch back, because in today's world of isolation, where increasingly you shut off yourself to neighbors, you shut off yourself to conversation because you're on your phone, you're doing things, it's so important to have that encounter with people you don't necessarily know. And that actually still drives me till today. What he told me 9 years ago, that you brought the front porch back. It's that feeling of
That's
familiarity.
And
very
scarcity
interesting.
drove it up, by the way, scarcity, because in a building of, let's say, 10, 15 flats, one person will get one phone.
No, similar.
So everybody's going to the house, their door has to be left open because
Same with the dating. Now if you go and approach somebody, they get
It's
shocked.
viral,
Yeah, they just get taken aback. If you want to date me, probably go on the app and see if I'm there or not.
Yeah.
Why would you want to approach me? Whereas that
Wow.
has
Come on,
yeah.
This is
You
interesting.
cannot approach a lady.
So how did you meet your girlfriend here?
No, it is a friend of a friend set us up. I am disabled that way to go and approach somebody in public and then getting rejected openly and getting probably even shouted at for
So you got the first.
rejection on the
Here
phone
also you got
shows
1
up.
out of 1, right?
No, not really. I skimmed through a lot. I think people skimmed through me a lot. I think.
So interesting. So what? How do we grow entrepreneurship in this country? Yeah, that's the subject. Yeah, which and
You know,
that's-
maybe I have a slightly
Yeah, please.
different question.
Oh, bully.
How do we build like mega large companies in India? Like maybe let me put a threshold $200 billion.
I have a view on this, Manish. I
Like, you know,
I'll tell you very interesting.
when I was growing up, I used to feel Tatas can do it. You know, like TCS करे तो ठीक है, हम करे तो नहीं हो सकता है. But now I feel like why can't we dream as large as what somebody else can dream?
I have a view on this. Firstly, it has to be part of the new economy. It can't be a commodity play. India is still a commodity play in terms of larger industries. And thirdly, capital only can get capital now in this new world. So the large capital which you need. And India में वो category और वो thought play of value added products and economy originality like Apple or the larger companies Microsoft or ले लो, whether we are participating in the AI world of the world, we are not there. We are still, we think too small here. We are still a coolie economy in terms of technology. There are some products which have come out of age in the size side. There are a lot of new emerging companies on the content side, which is quite interesting. There are a lot of new commerce and brands which are evolving, but this won't take us there.
Yeah.
This won't take us there. So what we need is something very original thinking. और इंडिया में original thinking आज zero है. I'm making this statement with a lot of confidence. She followed an American model. The face of New York, she bought it in India. It works for a city like Bombay. Our inspiration, our brand inspiration of how to build brands is from the West. The shows they did were all copies of the shows which were made there. And to a certain extent, beauty is also not an Indian creation. Our sense of beauty is very, very different than the Western sense of beauty. So unless we are not originals in thinking and we can convince the consumers or the audience in a bigger way, we'll not be able to create an Indian company which can be valued at that kind of level. That's my personal thinking.
But why not build for the world?
You can build for the world provided you are original thinker in every which way.
Sure.
Yeah, but build what for the world? I think, remember that we have so, I think, see, you can't wish away history. There is a certain history that has brought us to this point, and there are certain set of constraints that we work with. And those constraints, I don't think anybody can, really need master moves to be made. In fact, for example, look at it. India could be the hottest tourist destination in the world.
Yeah.
Simply, there's no other word. It will be on the bucket list of 90% of the world that ek India mein trip karna hai. If you want to, if you have the will, look at the infrastructure we've created for tourists to come. You can completely transform our economy if you start saying, okay, we want to be the biggest tourist destination in the world. You have the temples.
But now we have the infrastructure. We're getting built very well.
No, it's getting built, but I'm saying the whole mindset that this industry is for the next 10 years, we're going to build a $500 billion economy out of tourism. That decision making is not something, it's an accident of history. It will happen in some non-straight line, and maybe we'll arrive it, instead of in 10 years, we'll arrive it in 25 years. But I'm saying that's where the constraint is, that we are driven by so many agendas that are conflicting.
You're saying lack of focus.
Lack of focus also because many pulls and pushes in the system. There is a cost to running in a democratically, bureaucratically driven system.
But Manish, I am very hopeful that I see a lot of emerging people from the smaller towns who are thinking very original.
Tell me some stories.
If you look at all the people, if you look at the people who build the companies of today, which are reasonably good companies, I would say, and I don't know whether they can become 200 billion or not, whether it's a Paytm where he comes from a small place in Aligarh, whether it's a Misho, he comes from Meerut. So these small towns are creating entrepreneurs which are quite interesting. That's the way I'm looking at them and finding them quite interesting.
But they still went to Delhi and
ठीक है ना,
studied.
but किधर भी अभी नया इंफ्रास्ट्रक्चर शहरों में, like उदयपुर में people I met an entrepreneur in Udaipur, इतना बड़ा setup on furniture manufacturing they have put in. It was very fascinating. So there are a lot of small towns में a lot of entrepreneurs emerging, and they want to live there, they want to build businesses there, and they are very successful. That's how US also built in a way, that every town created certain businesses. I think India mein it's happening now. There will be a Rajkot, there will be a Surat, there will be Ahmedabad, there will be entrepreneurs which are emerging here.
And do you know? Do you think there is role of education and in this? Like in US, you see California producing entrepreneurs, and then there is a university ecosystem that supports it. Bombay में IIT Bombay है, but हम Bombay में कुछ high tech नहीं करते हैं. Like
I would say everything is happening in this country in some form.
But do you
कब
think,
ये एक्सप्लोड होगा, क्या चीज बढ़ेगी नहीं बनेगी, nobody knows.
do you believe that when you start in India, you are limited by the borders itself? Matlab, when you do in India, you can't really build for the world by default. Is that true by any?
बट ऐसा कोई नहीं होता है जो चालू करता है कि मेरे को वर्ल्ड के लिए बनाना है. दे स्टार्ट विच कैन गो टू द वर्ल्ड.
नहीं, बट आई थिंक एक और चीज हो जाती है दैट इंडिया में इतना कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी ऑपरेशन का दैट इफ यू डू इंडिया देन यू एंड अप फोकसिंग ऑन इंडिया. और इफ यू डू लाइक वादम टीज और व्हाटएवर, सम ऑफ दीस गाइज हैव गॉन एंड सोल्ड स्टफ अब्रॉड और अ सॉफ्टवेयर कंपनी, then you're saying, boss, I don't want to build for India, let me build for the world, because the economics are only very different. Actually, there are very few companies that are doing India and global easily. Very few. I mean, there'll be examples, but I'm saying largely you either end up saying, okay, let me get the dollar income and let me have that high margin structure and fight in the foreign markets, or let me do the Indian market fight. Very difficult to do both. I would say because the complexities are very different. I mean, there's no, the margin structures, the cost structures are all different. So you're rarely finding but you see companies, if you look at large companies, if you look at the airline space, like Indian aviation again is going to become a huge opportunity sitting there. When you see 2-3 large companies come out of there. Tourism is a massive sector to play out. I think infrastructure building, we are still just at the beginning of it. So I think we have a long way to go in terms of building large companies.
I think his kick is how can we create a $2 trillion or $3 trillion market cap company.
Yeah. 200 billion. I'm saying our banks are headed there, but yeah. They are doing a fantastic job.
No, but you still have to build for the world, right? Without that, I don't think just limited to
banks
India.
India के लिए बना के बन जाएगा.
नहीं, पर फिर वही है कि then you are dealing in sort of commodities. Then you're not.
No, but India is so underfinanced.
Yeah.
Like he had to start financing on his own.
See, I think at some level, again, big moves have to be made. Suppose we do a massive housing push over the next decade. The whole consumption pattern of the economy will change. Suppose you drop, and I'm saying this sounds crazy, suppose you drop housing loan interest rates to 2% for next 5 years. What will happen? You put that stimulus. When you buy a house, you buy a car, you buy a television, you buy white goods, the whole industry gets sorted out. So some of these moves, which are not possible, these are all idealistic thinking, and I'm sure economists will laugh at it, but there is an injection that's needed because economy normally jump orbits. Otherwise the move is very slow. When you jump an orbit, you jump from $2,000 to $5,000. That jump is done by stimulation of the economy only. That's unfortunately there's no other way to do it.
But should we look at the development only in numerical or dollar terms, or in what you call rupee terms, or in money terms, or should we look at the happiness terms or other terms also? We are creating a great infrastructure.
You find that I think as long as people's daily needs are met, I mean, we have a lot of Indians who are suffering. We don't see them. We don't connect with their suffering actually. We see them. In Bombay, actually, it's a big melting pot. You can be in some other cities in India and not. We live in the high rises next to the chawls. But we are largely insensitive to it, unfortunately. So, but I'm saying if the basic, let's say, income starts going up and they can afford a few things in life, you will find the happiness thing to go up naturally. Because just suffering in the train, making a train trip in Bombay twice a day, I mean, we are not able to imagine the kind of hardship that people are going through to attend work.
There's one boy, 21-year-old in my office who comes by train every day. He travels 2 hours. And he every other day, must have done it today also, I mean, actually not working, takes a video of people entering and leaving the train and just posts it.
Yeah.
And he never gets the train. He can't. So he has to wait for the next train to come because it's an everyday thing. And
so I think I think the reality is that we are so privileged. We are sitting here doing this discussion. I don't think we are, I think we should be extremely grateful first that we are here. And extremely generous as well as we treat people around us, because people have hard times. It's not easy to be an Indian and not have if you're not getting a great income. It's tough.
So at Purple, one of the philosophies we had very early on is that we distributed our ESOPs quite widely, to the extent that, our didis in the pantry and our janitor all have ESOPs at Purple. They don't know. what it means.
Mm.
But
Okay.
they've been with us for 7-8 years now. I mean, we've had people, like there was a girl who used to travel from Baikhala to Ghatkopar. Her father has been bedridden for 10 years. Now she's just gotten married, so she's moved to a new house. But till today, she travels like 1 hour one way. And then, so when many days I'm leaving from office, I'll say, okay, I'll drop you till the station. She has ESOP. So look, in some ways, I would say more than, I mean, we employ only 800-900 people today, but I think almost 400-500 of them have had ESOPs at any given point in time, and some of them have encashed it at some point in time, bought houses in Bombay. Many more still have vested ESOPs, which you know.
I'm in fact saying that the people listening to this podcast probably don't know how privileged they are, or don't realize it as much.
Yeah,
sure.
And then they would spend 5,000 rupees on a meal, but negotiate with the house help.
Yes,
right.
yeah.
So that's the challenge. I mean,
penny wise, pound foolish.
If people are watching,
Sometimes.
no, it's not penny wise pound. It's just that we are insensitive. Unfortunately,
it's
the way it's become. We are insensitive to the situation. I mean, somebody taking a 2-hour train Bombay back and forth. I mean, I've done it when I started my career.
I think it's damn hard.
Just keeping my shirt in shape that I can attend the meeting. I have to hang out with just one half of my foot on the train, because if you go inside, you all get crumpled, right? So we've done that, and it's become tougher since then. I'm talking 30 years ago. Today is much tougher. It's not become better. Just realize that in 30 years, the commute of a person in Bombay has become worse, not better.
Yeah.
So Karishma, we conclude this by asking you that what is that you have unlearned or learned today, something which you can tell us.
I've learned a lot.
I have learned a lot from your independence here.
I've learned a lot. I was listening when these conversations were going, because it's not directly relevant to what I'm doing. But I think unlearned is, I think the one thing I learned is I'm going to try to be more structured. Manish, like I'm going to try, because I'm not like that. I'm very free flowing.
But that's okay to be a right man and being free.
Don't be somebody else.
I think I've learned or unlearned quite a bit about how things are done. You have a certain perception of this is the way to get there. It's not necessarily that. Maybe just I don't know. I think that I learned more than I.
But that's the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's the new way of saying something.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think when you have a different kind of an opinion from yours, you always take away, and I think that's what's happening today with all of you, right? There's small things that I felt a certain way have given me a sense of light. Probably could also expand of how I think of things, right? Think of things from a perspective of creating a $2 billion versus giving ESOPs to Didi in the pantry, towards how a person can go from a salesman to doing what he's doing. You trying to tell us how a 40-50 year legacy can be built in the future in a shorter period of time, understanding the consumers. You to making sure that content is also the key, because we have to educate people, not only that they're privileged, but also how can you educate more to probably grow everything around us. I think that's a great learning and unlearning kind of a process that I've had today.
Manish?
I think my big learning is, I think it's important for people to be heard. I think it's something that I've not been great at. So it's something that I'm going to implement. And I think meeting you always is quite kick-ass, because I get to learn different parts of India better than anybody else probably knows. So what happens in Mysore and what happens in Guwahati and what happens in Patna, a lot of that stuff, in my view, I think I just enjoy. I will soon make a trip to these places to see it on my own. I think there is just lots to learn, and thank you. I think this has been a fascinating conversation.
Good,
I learned
Harish?
that I was from the Singapore section.
Yes.
You are among the 60 by 70 lakh people in this country. हरीश आप तो सर्वज्ञानी सर्व संपूर्ण हो
I am just learning. I mean, what I can see is that experience matters less in the new world than energy.
Absolutely.
I think that's the big difference.
I think that's a big one. Yeah.
For me, just seeing younger people here who have, less experience, actually somewhat better. I think we have in our head a vision of the world that's the past actually. You have the vision of the future and you have energy. I think that's the,
But how is the combination of wisdom and energy which works? I try to, when we look at the guest to call in a podcast like this, we try to balance the wisdom and energy together.
Correct.
I believe that combination works unbelievably well.
और वो कोई सुनता नहीं wisdom को.
ये लोग तो दोनों अकेले चले गए.
They will do with energy.
They will do. Cornered out today.
So when you tell them don't make this mistake, no, we want to learn on our own. So there's no question of that.
LinkedIn post on the learnings.
No, but I think it's all about having had. For us, learning was through. For me, every learning was through a book or a cinema.
Correct.
There was no other learning methods. And when I started looking at podcast and the kind of influence it has, this is a new learning method now.
Correct.
Yeah.
And if I think meeting the younger generation, मेरा selfish interest है कि I'm getting relevant.
Correct.
I think I'm getting relevant. I don't know whether I'm getting relevant or not. And I think every entrepreneur has a story to tell.
Absolutely.
Everyone, and that's always a unique story.
Yeah.
And you will always find a pattern which is very, very different. And
What are your key learnings from cinema?
Everything. I love.
Give us top two.
So,
top
abhi
three.
latest, I will tell you, like Rocky, if you look at that movie, that has been loved by Singapore, the way I define Singapore, and Poland. And whether Mexico has liked it, I'm not so sure. But बाकी दुनिया को कोई मतलब ही नहीं वो मूवी का. If you look at Gadar 2, that's Sub-Saharan जो the rest of India है. It's done phenomenally well. उनका behavior, उनका जो the way they've enjoyed that movie is unbelievable. So every cinema has something, the target segment of the market which they create, the kind of characters they build,
and who the hero is,
will relate
and what kind of hero do they have?
Characters will relate to whom. Every movie is made with a lot of depth and understanding, and that's real consumer or category creation idea. So every cinema will tell you something. We followed a movie called Dil Chahta Hai. I've spoken earlier also in an episode, and wherever it did well, we opened up a pantaloon store there because that was the first multiplex city-oriented movie of French which was made.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which was made in this country.
That's
So movies will
So
tell you
smart,
so much which you can't imagine.
Yeah.
And India, how do you learn?
Yeah.
The best other thing which people understand, the caste, the community, the systems, the income level, the politician understands this better than we all of us.
Yeah. Absolutely.
The cinema makers, the lyricists understand the pulse of India, what words they like. So the content creators will understand. They'll come to know instantly once you create something how many people have liked it. So and this is the era where you can know much faster. Your data tells you everything, and data has no emotions. We were all in a business where we used to be driven by emotions out of everything. Or हम लोग को our biggest problem in life is how do you remove emotions out of business? आपने तो पहले ही निकाल दिया. The only member I have met somebody who has no emotions, and you are totally data oriented. मतलब no emotion नहीं, less emotion in terms of business. हम लोग बिजनेस में इमोशंस बहुत लेके आए. इसके भी है, गुजराती लोगों के भी बहुत होते हैं.
No, but I've stayed away from them, at least when it came to implementation of
He's on my side.
He's on your side. Everybody is going to turn to your side.
Data.
इसके लिए बोला ना हम लोगों का तो जमाना गया ना.
वही बोला हमारे बाल अभी you have to give us hair dye. But yeah, experience. I think the energy is what, and that's fascinating to see in so many young people in India. It's just fantastic
crazy
to see
energy.
you guys succeed.
Which books have
We are
moved
rooting
you?
for your success actually.
Which books? Very early. I think 7 Habits of Highly Effective People very early. Awakening the Giant, which is Anthony Robbins, Alchemist. I would have read most of the books written at that point of time. Books was like one discipline every year.
Which were the recent ones?
Recent ones, only I am reading people autobiographies. I think that time it was Malcolm Gladwell, Good to Great. वो सब पढ़ने का था. I think 0 to 1 inspired me a lot.
Wonderful.
That was a crazy book.
Yeah.
So
Monopolization.
right now I moved to the current book I'm reading is it's a small book on philosophy. I'm reading about all the philosophers of the world.
Nice.
And what is their philosophy about?
Have you written any?
Yes.
I've written a book long time
I've
back.
read
I've written a book, I've made movies, and I'm doing podcasts.
I learned India 1, India 2, India 3 from that book.
I see.
So India. So any concluding statements, Harish?
No, I mean, nothing that I have to add except the fact that it's just fantastic to be here with these young people who are changing India, and it's just we are observers now. We are
Yeah.
not players anymore.
Mm.
Umpire थोड़ा बहुत काम दे देगा कोई, but these are the new batsmen, bowlers.
He's the beach wale batting wale हैं ये.
Rahul Dravid. Steady and no emotion. Next ball is the first ball.
Yes.
Right? I think that was the one thing I heard from Rahul Dravid saying, I don't care if I've screwed up the previous ball. This ball is a fresh new.
So which are the emotions which are much higher on there are 9 recorded human emotions.
Yeah.
So which is that emotion which your Shangaras inspires you?
Sorry, what?
Shangaras.
What is that?
Shangar is beauty.
Acha. I mean, I think I'm very passionate. I think
You're in a beauty business, but does beauty inspire you?
Yeah, it does. It does.
Or
it
business
does.
building does.
Yeah. So
In
business
the
building definitely does.
I know.
So which
I'm a
is, you have heard of a beauty called Madhubala?
I think Deepika Padukone is outstanding. Yeah. Like absolutely, like she is epitome
You
of
have to understand Madhubala. Ask him.
Yeah.
I mean,
His favorite is something else which I can't say.
Yeah. But I think I think the emotion of passion is quite high. Like I think we are constraining ourselves, we are restraining ourselves in terms of achieving our dreams. I think there is lot more to do. There is so much that we just are conditioned to saying ये तो कोई और ही कर सकता है, ये हम नहीं कर सकते. I think all that stuff needs to change soon, and I think people need to take more risks, and they need to be backed with saying, it's okay, if we
Fear
lose,
of failure, as we talked
if
about.
it's okay if we fail, but I think it's very hard because I don't know what wiring it takes, like
No, going back to the fear of failure, like I've been going through a sense of failure in a way, but I've been lucky that that's not been highlighted as much as the successes you have achieved. So
No, also my sense is we should differentiate between execution failure and creation failure.
No, it's business is business anyway.
Yeah.
But the way people are looking at failure is also, I think, changing.
Yeah.
It's changing.
No, of course. For me, I think being less sort of philosophical and more candid, it is Shringaras. I have had my time with the men in their beards. I really had to move to a beauty. I cannot take it anymore with the content creation of men and their tantrums. It's not happening. I had to go to office and feel good about looking at beautiful faces.
His is Deepika Padukone, his is, we can't say, and Madhubala.
Mine is, I think, Alia Bhatt.
Alia Bhatt.
And Gal Gadot.
Wow.
Gal Gadot. Okay.
Very interesting. What about you? You're the finale for us now.
Again, it's passion. I'm just very passionate about telling stories, and I think that stories make a difference. Like, we've received so many thousands of people who have reached out to us over the years that saying that, I read that person's story and I've got the courage to make a difference. Like, and it's a very serious situation.
So which are the stories which inspire you the most? All the rasas, like there is a Navrasa, there is a Veer ras, there is a Shingar ras. So these are, I can convert them into English and also talk, but
yeah, because I don't know what they mean.
Ras means emotions of human beings.
Yeah.
So somebody has a story of valor or victory, somebody has a story of beauty, somebody has a story of humor, somebody has a story of bhakti.
So I'll tell you one story in particular, and then you can infer what about that story, because even I don't know. So there was this man called Ali Bhatt who was wrongfully imprisoned for 23 years of his life. And it was a crime that he had not committed, and he kept constantly saying that it's a crime I've not. And then he was released from jail without a single rupee in compensation for the 23 years that he lost in jail. We interviewed him, and we put out a simple crowdfunding link saying that, look, this is his story, this is what he's been through, and we want to raise 23 lakh for the 23 years that he spent in jail. Over 12 hours, we raised that entire amount from India,
amazing.
from place like India, and it reached 25, 26, and then we had to shut the link. I got on a video call with him to tell him that this is what has happened, like, you're not alone. And he just started crying, and he said, the first thing he said to me is, the world is not bad.
Yeah.
The world is inherently kind. And that's somebody who's been through 23 years of torture in jail for something that he just did not commit. And that story, every time I feel like, it's a bad time or it's a bad phase, I think about the resilience of somebody who was put in that situation can still have that emotion. So
No,
stories like this.
It's a wonderful story.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
very
absolutely.
interesting.
Yeah.
That's like a perfect climax to a good conversation.
So great. We all enjoyed this conversation.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank
you.
Thank you for getting us all together.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Please. Thank you very much.
You have the power to create your own brand just by having a cell phone.
I have a very simple thesis. Don't talk to too many people. Just jump. As an entrepreneur, you have to avoid noise.
From a central idea being perfect, 20 things right is how a business becomes successful.
Made me realize that if I don't do this, I cannot stay where I have got down to today. And I have to bring that back, not only for myself, but this is on my shoulders to bring it back for my family.
For me, creation was a big thing. And consumers accepting it, millions of people liking it, was a much bigger kick of life than doing one thing and perfecting it. I was not made that way.